6 with the result. The Chargers 5-3 at home, while the Broncos dropped to 4-4 on the road. Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert, 23 of 31 passing for 284 yards and a pair of touchdowns. LA poured it on in the fourth quarter, outscoring the Broncos 15-3. LA inching closer to wrapping up a playoff spot. Meanwhile, Denver could have clinched the postseason berth, but had its 4-game winning streak snapped. Bo Nix, 29 of 40 passing, 263 yards and a pair of touchdowns. Denver visits Cincinnati a week from Saturday, while the Chargers head to New England to face the Patriots. The college football playoff starts tonight. Number 7 Notre Dame battles number 10 Indiana in the first round. Other bowl games tonight in Orlando is the Cure Bowl, Jacksonville State against Orlando, Gasparilla Bowl in Tampa, Tulane against Florida. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
If you've been putting off holiday shopping, you're not alone. But the holidays are next week, so it's time to kick things into high gear. Macy's Holiday Countdown Sale is here to make last-minute shopping easy, with great deals on top gifts, like cozy hat, scarf, and glove sets from Coach, Kate Spade, and more for $49.99. Boxed up and ready to give. Easy. So if you haven't gotten to everyone on your list yet, don't be too hard on yourself, but do shop Macy's ASAP. These deals end Thursday. Savings off already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
This year, American farmers will harvest 2.8 billion bushels of wheat and 15.1 billion bushels of corn. And to this day, American road workers have built 4.2 million miles of roads and counting. We're proud that John Deere machines rolling off the line here in the USA play a part in supporting Americans who work the land and build a better tomorrow. Nothing runs like a Deere. Learn more at johndeere.com/manufacturing.
No way football is playing in the fall and winter.
Because the hits don't hurt as much when you're numb. Get the lowdown on all the sports action coming up right here.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Off and running in today's edition of Football Full Circle right here on the SportsGrid Radio Network, Sirius Channel 159. Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens taking you around the league of the NFL. Over the next hour, we'll also touch on college football playoff games starting tonight with South Bend, Notre Dame and Indiana. Doesn't get better than this when you look at it. Overall, Indiana 7.5-point road dog in terms of this matchup. Notre Dame right now hitting on all cylinders. This is a team in Notre Dame that has won 10 straight games by an average margin of victory of 35 points per game. You look at Kirk Cignetti, you look at Indiana overall as a whole, this team could be prepared for a breakout game. So we'll see how that plays out a little bit later today. When you look at the Thursday night game, NFL action, you had Denver and LA, the Chargers last night, dominated in the second half. This was a game, when you look at Justin Herbert, got started a little bit slow in regards to that matchup. Couldn't run the football consistently with Gus Edwards and Vidal. But in the second half, defense made adjustments. You saw Derwin James and that defense really contained Bo Nix, shut down the rushing attack in the second half. Javonte Williams, Audric Estime, non-existent. But Justin Herbert did get it into a little bit of a rhythm. They win it going away, 34-27. This was a game in which LA was booked as a 2.5-point home favorite in terms of the matchup. The total very low at 41.5. They did blow right through that number from an in-game perspective. 51.5 at the start of the second quarter. It got as high as 61.5, and the Chargers dominated in regards to that matchup. They put up well over 350 yards of total offense. Justin Herbert with 284 yards through the air. We also saw Ladd McConkey lead all the wide receivers in terms of receptions. Josh Palmer got involved as well. When you look at Denver as a whole, still alive in terms of the AFC wildcard race. They do square off over the next couple of weeks against solid opponents. The last game of the regular season, depending upon how Kansas City plays that over the next couple of weeks, that game might be meaningless for the Kansas City Chiefs, and Denver does get them in terms of their house in Mile High. So we'll keep an eye out for Denver the rest of the way. Right now, you look at LA, almost solidified themselves a wild card appearance. They had a 97% chance to meet that and win that ball game and make the playoffs. So that's something to keep an eye on. There's a team in LA that was struggled in back-to-back weeks against the Kansas City Chiefs and Tampa Bay Buccaneers overall. When you look at just the MO of LA, they struggled in terms of the last couple of games running the football consistently without J.K. Dobbins in that lineup. Gus Edwards and Vidal have taken it over, but they've been put in long third down situations. Justin Herbert has been made to do it all. He made plays last night with his legs. He broke contain multiple times, kept drives alive as well. He plays like that, they could be a solid out, potentially a solid opponent for a wild card victory or a week one, round one victory in terms of the AFC playoffs. We'll see how that plays out. I did mention the college football playoffs. We also have two bowl games taking place today. We have Florida and Ohio that'll kick off Tulane, a little bit later, Ohio and Jacksonville State. And I think Ben's with us to break down the thing. Oh, no, he's not. I thought he was talking. Ben will be back. He's dealing with some technical difficulties. Jacksonville State without Rich Rod. Keep an eye out for that. Ohio, very balanced in terms of their offense attack. One of the better MAC teams that we've seen. Total for that game, 58.5, which seems a little bit high when you see some of these games play out over the last couple of weeks in regards to the bowl season. A couple of nights ago, we saw a dead under with Cal and UNLV. We saw another under last night play out with Sam Houston State and Georgia Southern. So we'll see how these games play out. We have a 12 o'clock kick, Ohio and Jacksonville State, and then a 3:30 kick, Tulane and Florida to kick it off. And then obviously those Saturday games for the NFL. So we'll get you locked and loaded. But Ben, I was just talking about last night's performance for Denver and the LA Chargers.
Yeah, Lisa guy, we've got a lot to get to here on this Football Friday on Football Full Circle. Appreciate you holding down the fort as we went through a couple of technical issues, but we are now ironed out. The way is paved. We are ready for what some, Joe, are calling a historic football weekend. It is the first ever 12-team college football playoff with our first ever game in the 12-team era, our first ever on campus college football playoff game tonight in snowy South Bend between Indiana and Notre Dame. So, Joe, let's lay out the rundown for the people. We'll continue to recap quickly Thursday night football, what it means for the AFC playoff picture in just a matter of moments. Then after that, we got to go rapid fire, my friend. We're going to have to pick every game for this NFL weekend. 14 games, 2 on Saturday, doubleheader that starts in Arrowhead. Patrick Mahomes is going to play and then goes to an AFC North battle and rivalry in Baltimore with 12 games on Sunday. We'll move fast. And then, Joe, our final two segments, we got to preview the college football playoff and our quadruple header, the 4 games in the opening round. Are you ready?
Yeah, absolutely. I said I was ready last night with that matchup, and it was a great call by you with the over 41.5. I actually jumped on in the first quarter last night, over 43.5, made a little money. But let me tell you, that game was, you want to talk about ebbs and flows and ups and downs. It started last night. It looked like Denver would run away with that matchup. Second half, it was all LA. They cover, and the over comes in. And then that sets the stage, right? You know, you talk about college football tonight. Biggest game, the first ever college football playoff game. We'll see it in a magical setting in terms of South Bend. Can Indiana, as a 7.5-point dog, strike the upset over Notre Dame? That's the biggest question. Snow in the forecast. I want to see the setting at 8 o'clock tonight, Ben.
Yeah, Joe, it wasn't really my call, to be honest, for the over last night on Thursday to kick off Week 16. It was our Fade the Public poll on the early line, because the public was trying to decide with pretty close margins between the Chargers, the Broncos as the side or the under. And when I saw that, when the public was fading the over, the first place a public bettor generally starts his handicap, I was like, that's interesting. And then I saw the Chargers go 3 and out on the opening drive of the game. I saw the Broncos start to drive in their opening offensive possession. I was like, you know what? I'll use my 25% profit boost on a live bet for the lovely FanDuel Sportsbook to go over 40.5. Bang, boom. Ka-ching. Could have been alt over 58.5 with a ton of plus money. A lot of scoring last night. Denver scored, Joe, on its first 3 offensive possessions of the game, a touchdown. Never scored a TD. Again, in fact, only 6 points in the second half, as you alluded to. All Chargers in those final 2 quarters. That included, Joe, a historic bump, perhaps, heading into the half. Our first fair catch free kick in the NFL in nearly a half century. Since 1976, the Chargers, the last organization to do it, 48 years. Cameron Dicker, the kicker, a 57-yard free kick to make it 21-13, ending out that first half and into the locker room. Joe, it might sound silly, but that special teams play, I think, provided a little bit of optimism for LA that they continue to take advantage of in the second.
Yeah, right when he kicked that kick, right, prior to that 55 or 57-yarder, they were 8.5-point dogs and plus 440 on the money line. He makes the kick. They go into halftime, 5.5-point dogs, and I think they got as low at that particular time to maybe 320 or 290 in that area. And they stormed in this. It was all LA. Never looked back. It's like Denver sort of let go after that. So dominant second half performance, something we didn't see the week prior.
Both teams, divisional mates, not with anything at stake in the AFC West, but huge implications in the AFC playoff picture. We'll discuss next on Football Full Circle. A big day ahead on FFC.
4 out of 5 scientists agree it's smarter to be on SportsGrid. And we're pretty sure that one scientist is still a virgin.
He just gives that vibe.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
The man accused of killing United Healthcare's CEO was whisked back to New York by plane and helicopter Thursday to face new federal charges of stalking and murder, which could bring the death penalty if he's convicted. With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. This update brought to you by Verizon. Luigi Mangione was held without bail following a Manhattan federal court appearance, capping a whirlwind day that began in Pennsylvania, where he was arrested last week in the December 4th attack on Brian Thompson. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement deported more than 270,000 people to 192 countries over a recent 12-month period. That's the highest annual tally in a decade, according to a report released Thursday. ICE, the main government agency responsible for removing people in the country illegally, had 271,484 deportations in its fiscal year ending September 30th, nearly double from the 142,580 in the same period a year earlier. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
This year, American farmers will harvest 2.8 billion bushels of wheat and 15.1 billion bushels of corn. And to this day, American road workers have built 4.2 million miles of roads and counting. We're proud that John Deere machines rolling off the line here in the USA play a part in supporting Americans who work the land and build a better tomorrow. Nothing runs like a Deere. Learn more at johndeere.com/manufacturing.
Not to brag, but Progressive's Name Your Price tool is mankind's greatest tool ever. Even better than the wheel. Sure, without the wheel, we wouldn't have modern transportation or funny videos of dogs riding skateboards. But without the Name Your Price tool, we wouldn't have easy access to auto insurance options based on our budget. And, well, cars do need wheels. They also need insurance, and insurance never goes flat. Learn more about the greatest tool ever, the Name Your Price tool at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
There's something you should know and always remember.
SportsGrid does not increase luck.
We're your unfair advantage for the latest sports gaming information. If you're looking for luck,
Go find a horseshoe.
this is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
We're live on FFC. It's a big-time Football Friday. We got to preview every game for the NFL Week 16 weekend. And I say weekend and not Sunday because we've got 2 games on a Saturday. We'll start there in just a moment. But, Joe, Week 16 now already underway with the Chargers' dominant second half and a 34-27 win last night on a Thursday. LA covers as a 2.5-point home favorite. As we shared, a total of 41.5 stood no chance. It's skies way over. The Bolts this year, 8-2 against the spread. There are only 2 covers in those 8 times doing so against a team above 500 is Denver. They beat the Broncos twice this year, covering as a slight favorite in both. And Joe, because of that, the two teams flip-flop in the AFC playoff standings. The Chargers were the 7th seed. They're now the 6th with a 9-6 record. Denver falls to the 7th seed with a 9-6 mark as well, because the Chargers have that direct head-to-head tiebreaker. In the ground of Denver making the postseason got a little bit shakier after last night's costly defeat.
Yeah, they were doing it, running the football, playing sound offense, not turning the football over, and relying on their defense. And that got them to a certain point, certainly got them to a first-half lead last night on the road. But again, in the second half, what happened? Bo Nix was put into long third-down situations. You saw the front seven of L.A. generate some quarterback pressures. And again, they did not attack. I don't know if you noticed, but Denver did not attack vertically the whole second half. I don't know if part of that was just the game plan of Sean Payton. Part of that was just the ineffectiveness of the rushing attack, being put into 3rd and 11s and 3rd and 18s, that Bo Nix just was one-dimensional. But I did not see them attack vertically, and that's the main reason why LA was able to get off the field and give the football back to Justin Herbert. The rushing attack did get going, and at the end of the day, Herbert makes some big plays. He throws for 280, 290 in that ball game, mostly in the second half. That was a great effort by the LA offense in the second half of that ball game.
And that defense, Joe, stepping up after they had given up a lot of points in the opening half and the previous few weeks as well. So it's a big win for the Chargers. Now firmly into a playoff spot. They have not clinched just yet, but firmly into a good playoff position around the AFC. Joe, I mentioned the Broncos. They are now that 7th and final team into the AFC postseason picture. The teams that trail them, the 3 wild card hopefuls, if you will, the Bengals, Colts, Dolphins, all at 6-8. They would need Denver and LA to lose out. If Denver or the Bolts win one more game, they're good. They're into the postseason. But, Joe, the reason the Broncos are in a tough spot, or a tougher spot, I should say, is because Denver takes on Cincy in Cincinnati next weekend. The Bengals, an 8.5-point favorite this week against the Browns, would be an early projected field goal favorite against the Broncos. And then Denver ends the year hosting Kansas City. We'll see if the Chiefs even need that Week 18 game. If the Broncos were to lose their final 2 and the Bengals were to win out, having the head-to-head tiebreak with a victory in Week 17 against Denver, it would be the Bengals as the final playoff team in the AFC, and not a Denver team that has basically been in a wild card spot for the last month and a half or so.
Yeah, and that's why about 2 weeks ago, you were still seeing the Bengals, even though they were under 500 at minus 134, Ben, to potentially make the playoffs, right? The schedule lined up. You've seen now the Browns tail off after their marquee win against Baltimore 5 weeks ago, right? They've been competitive, but they haven't been able to win football games, right? So most likely Cincinnati will get another victory under their belt heading into that matchup with Denver, whatever happens this coming weekend. So we'll see. I mean, you still have to give the edge to Cincinnati. The problem with Cincinnati, big picture, is they need to shore up that front seven and the defense, because, if Bo Nix doesn't have to throw the football, guess what? They could run it right down Cincy's throat and still maybe potentially pull that game out on the road. It's going to be difficult, obviously. But again, that defense for Cincinnati is leaky. They gave up 17 points to Tennessee, and that imbalanced offense. You can't say that they can't give up 20 plus to Denver, and then it's game on.
Yeah, no doubt about it. The Bengals have to win this week at home. They're an 8.5-point favorite against the Browns, who are going to start the second-year pro, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. But if Cincy does, it sets up a monumental matchup next Sunday. All right, Joe, let's keep going through the Week 16 slate. That includes a Saturday doubleheader. We thought this might be the case as the odds started to shift. Yesterday, we got confirmation. Patrick Mahomes, who has been a full participant at practice this week for Kansas City, is going to start tomorrow as the Chiefs welcome in the Houston Texans to Arrowhead. 3.5-point spread now in favor of KC, a total that stands at 41 and a hook. Mahomes is going to start. How effective can he be, Joe?
Well, I mean, if he's going to start, then you expect Pat Mahomes to at least get to 200, 225. And I think I saw his number, if I'm not mistaken, 236. At least that's what it was prior to last night's action, assuming that he did play in that ball game. And again, that's his MO. Every other week, Pat Mahomes performs. He'll throw for 206 against the Chargers, and then all of a sudden it looks like he's potentially due for a breakout game, and he goes into Cleveland and he throws for $156 and 2 touchdowns, and they still win it by margin, right? So you never know what you're going to get out of Pat Mahomes. He does have the capability to light it up for 300 yards. They're going up against an above-average defense that contained Miami. I expect Mahomes to break out this week. I love the overall week, Ben, and you know that. So again, with Mahomes in the lineup, if you're asking me, what do we expect? I would expect 250, 275 as long as he's 90% healthy, playing at home, and maybe we see a little Marquise Brown. I say we light him up this weekend.
Hollywood Brown expected to make his season debut, his regular season debut for Kansas City. Could that provide a spark offensively? Joe, it's just crazy. When we saw Mahomes limp to the sideline with about 8 minutes remaining in regulation last week in Cleveland, it felt like the Chiefs might be in danger of having Mahomes for the rest of the regular season and trying to maintain that number 1 overall seed in the AFC. Now they're more than a field goal favorite against the Texans team that just clinched the AFC South for a second consecutive year. We'll go to Baltimore in the rest of the Sunday slate. That's up next, live right here on Football Full Circle on SportsGrid Radio.
There's smart.
And there's not smart.
Not smart is hope as a strategy. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Keep it here.
And win. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
Hello again, everyone. It's good to have you with us for this event.
1985, sportscaster Howard Cosell retires from television after 20 years with ABC.
The rest of Monday night is given over to those gargantuan Goliaths of the gridiron.
Cosell was must-see TV on Monday Night Football in the 70s and 80s. For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the smart house, not a circuit was stirring, not even a mouse. The children were nestled all snug in their beds. Visions of iPhones danced in their heads. Then arose such a clatter of sensors and lights. From the chimney sprang jolly old Saint Nick. He was chubby and plump, dressed in glowing LEDs from his head to his foot. It flashed and sputtered as he brushed off the soot. Suddenly, a bundle of toys and a motorized gizmo rolled out to a stop. I laughed when I saw this in spite of myself. Then a hatch popped open, and a robot arm went straight to its work, filling all the stockings. Then laying a finger aside of his nose, giving a nod, his jetpack blazing up the chimney he rose. Away they flew, chased by a live streaming drone that rose from the thistle.
Happy Christmas to all of you.
Follow me at Chico Palbo on Twitter and stay tuned to The Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
Carver and Lisi.
I think there's no doubt this game gets into the 50s. How about that? I don't care if Carson Wentz plays. Human turnover machine is good for 14 points. This game sails through the total.
Sounds like one of those 5-diamond, no doubt about it, crypto Christmas specials.
It's Carver and Lisi with Mike Carver and Joe Lisi. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific. On SportsGrid, Sirius XM Channel 159. Wherever you go,
there you are.
Download the SportsGrid mobile app and we'll be right there with you.
So now you can get the winning edge.
Anywhere. Even while the wife's talking to you.
If you've got an earbud.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle, it is FFC. We continue our entire Week 16 NFL preview for the weekend slate ahead. That includes games on Saturday, 12 games on Sunday. In our final 2 segments of the show, I promise, we will preview the college football playoff for the first ever time in the 12-team era. That kicks off tonight. Lisa Guy, our second game on Saturday. Ravens, 6.5-point favorite at home, take it on the Steelers. 44.5 is that total a crucial game, Joe? A monumental matchup within the division between these two bitter foes. Who do you give the edge on Saturday in the Charm City?
Well, we know that these games are very close, right? So just from the side perspective, based off that and based off the fact that Pittsburgh won the last meeting, mostly due to the defense, I'm going to take the Steelers plus the points. I don't love it, but I would take the points with the Steelers. What I did find intriguing, and when you said it, 44.5. So they opened the line at 45.5. They bet it down. Yeah. And we said that, right? You know, the last time they played in Pittsburgh, it was a 48.5 number. And that was with the teams averaging 30.8 points per game over the last 7 or 8 meetings. They put it 18 points higher. And now all of a sudden, based off the first meeting and knowing what you have, they still only set it 4 points to a discount. It seems odd to me. I told you I like the over as the best play. Yeah. Something seems up. That number to me, Ben, should be in the area of 42, 43 to start. Not at 45.5, so give me the over. I think we blow through the total for once.
8 straight unders in this series between these two bitter foes. They are often incredibly close. 6.5 points would seem like a lot to lay for the Ravens here. I will say this, Joe. I expect Baltimore to equalize the season series, which would be huge for the divisional race. I think this could be a great 6-point teaser spot to bring the flock down to a pick'em price. But to your point, Joe, when you think about where things are for this total, 48.5 for the opener, 18-16 was that Pittsburgh outright win as an underdog at home. This now 44.5. The Ravens have still been playing a ton of overs. In fact, Baltimore the most overs this year in the NFL, 11 of 14 games to the over. The Steelers have gone under in 2 straight, both games without George Pickens, who is more than likely not going to play tomorrow against the Ravens. But they had gone over, Joe, in 5 of the first 6 games that Russell Wilson started. The only under was that first matchup against Baltimore. I think the Ravens win. I don't know if I would lay near a touchdown at home with Baltimore in this rivalry with all that goes into it. Minus 170 is the price on Pittsburgh, by the way, to win the AFC North. If the odds are correct and the Ravens do win tomorrow, the season series tied. So no head-to-head tiebreaker. Same division record entering the final 2 weeks within the AFC North. Same overall record, both at 10-5. The reason, Joe, the Steelers are an odds-on minus money favorite right now is Pittsburgh has a better conference record around the AFC. They have that game advantage on the Ravens right now, or a 2-game advantage, rather. So even with a loss, they would still be up by a game. And, of course, it's just conference foes the rest of the way for both of these teams. All right, Lacey Guy, let's get into Sunday. Another divisional duel in the AFC North, but not with division implications. The Bengals host the Browns in the Battle of Ohio. 8.5-point spread in favor of Cincinnati. Total 46.5. We shared earlier, DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, starting now for the Browns at QB. The Bengals offense, Joe, and Joe Burrow has been elite. Is Cincy going to win comfortably as the odds indicate?
No, I mean, when we're talking comfortably, we talk what? By margin, right? 8.5, 10 points. And I just don't see that. I mean, think about Kansas City laid 5.5 in Cleveland, right? And they bet it down to 4.5 because people bought into the Browns and they laid an egg, right? The better defense got to them. But does Cincy have the better defense in terms of this matchup? No, not in my opinion. I mean, the Browns defense is still slightly above average and certainly more competitive and physical than the Bengals. I still think they can run the football on them. Cincy might win, Ben, but this game might be ugly, 24-20. I think it's a lower scoring game, but you want to give me 8.5 points to where Cleveland has fairly played Cincinnati well during the Joe Burrow era? I'll take the points with Cleveland.
The Browns just 3-11 this year. All 3 covers an outright victory as a dog, or all 3 wins an outright victory as a dog. Only 1 cover in any of the 11 losses. But Joe, Cincy as a home favorite this year, awful. 1-4 against the spread, not covering by an average margin of nearly 10 points per game. A few more thoughts on that one in the rest of the Sunday slate here on FFC. Very, very fast on the other side of the break. Next, here on SportsGrid Radio.
The Winning Edge.
You've got it.
But not everybody has it, because not everybody listens to us.
But we're working on that.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders. Thursday Night Football, the Chargers beat the Broncos 34-27. Both teams are 9-6 with the result. The Chargers 5-3 at home, while the Broncos dropped to 4-4 on the road. Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert, 23 of 31 passing for 284 yards and a pair of touchdowns. LA poured it on in the fourth quarter, outscoring the Broncos 15-3. LA inching closer to wrapping up a playoff spot. Meanwhile, Denver could have clinched the postseason berth, but had its 4-game winning streak snap. Bo Nix, 29 of 40 passing, 263 yards and a pair of touchdowns. Denver visits Cincinnati a week from Saturday, while the Chargers head to New England to face the Patriots. The college football playoff starts tonight. Number 7 Notre Dame battles number 10 Indiana in the first round. Other bowl games tonight in Orlando is the Cure Bowl, Jacksonville State against Orlando, Gasparilla Bowl in Tampa, Tulane against Florida. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
I love spreading joy with gifts this time of year, but I try not to spread my budget too thin. Luckily, Kohl's has come through for me once again. I just went and used a 25% off coupon to score so many great gifts under $20, like cozy pajamas and fleece, amazing gift sets, and beauty must-haves. So if you're looking to give more for less this season, get to Kohl's. Select styles. Offers end December 24th. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
Flo here from Progressive to tell you how you get more than great savings with us. You get customer service access through our mobile app, online chat, or by phone.
That's a lot of ways I can get in touch with you. I see what's going on here. You can't name favors, but I'm your number one customer.
Actually, we offer all our customers these ways to contact us.
I'm sure you give just any customer your personal
company
contact info.
Well, you did call us more than any other customer this year. So in that sense, you are our number one customer.
Get help from Progressive through the website, app, chat, or phone. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
You're listening to SportsGrid.
Spreading the winning edge far and wide.
Terrestrial, internet, TV, satellite, and don't forget our mobile app.
Face it.
The winning edge is everywhere.
Somewhere there's a squirrel frustrated he can't get a phone.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle. We go rapid fire around the NFL Sunday slate before we get to the college football playoff preview. Joe, next up, Carolina in Charlotte. 4.5-point home underdog now, hosting the Cardinals. Arizona still in the hunt for the NFC West title if they can win out and continue to stack up some victories. 47.5 is the total. Last week, Joe, Carolina a favorite for the first time since the end of 2022, snapping a skid of 33 straight games booked as an underdog. They got beat bad by the Cowboys. What do you like in Carolina on Sunday?
I like Carolina plus the points, and I've been high on Arizona for the most part. That was my best bet from the side perspective against New England. Going on the road, though, I don't trust Kyler Murray, right? That is the biggest concern I have. I do trust James Conner in the rushing attack. But again, Bryce Young and Charlotte, Carolina have been very, spunky from the ATS perspective. Now, granted, as a favorite, they got pushed around by the Cowboys, but I still think they can move the football on the secondary of Arizona. I expect Bryce Young to play well. 4.5, this might come down to a field goal. And the fact that Arizona needs the game maybe a little bit tight on the road, I'm going to take the points with Carolina. I do like the total, though, Ben. 47.5. I think we blow through that in Carolina this weekend.
I think we get some points as well, Joe. Not only did it snap a 33-game streak as the dog for Carolina last week, it also snapped their 5-game cover streak. I actually think the Panthers keep this game close as well. Bryce Young, he doesn't stink. He has showed the resolve. I would lean with the Panthers. Joe, huge game, best game of Sunday perhaps. Eagles, Commanders in that early window. Philly, 3.5-point favorite outside the nation's capital in Landover. With a victory, Philadelphia will clinch the NFC East for a second time in the last 3 years. Total 45 and a hook. Lisi guy, Eagles, Commanders with the division championship at stake. What's the play?
I like Commanders in a bounce-back spot. And again, they had a good first half in the first meeting in the Link. It was a lower-scoring game. Now at home, they're back to playing with a little bit of confidence. They've been dominating some teams at home. I think they step up here. Again, catching points, the 3.5. I know that you're talking about the hottest team in the country in the NFL right now, winning 10 straight. But I'll take a shot with Jaden Daniels. The biggest thing for me, too, again, I believe over in terms of this matchup. I don't think it trends to the under. I like the points and I like the over in regards to Washington. And don't be shocked. I'll call it. I'll take them on the money line as well. I think they could strike the upset.
The Eagles have won 10 straight. They have covered in 7 of 10. They have gone under in 7 of 10. The Commanders have played good football, but they do not have a win against a team that currently has a winning record. The Eagles did cover as a 4.5-point home favorite in this short week matchup back in the middle of November, 26-18. Yeah, decided by a single score at the end, but it was really a last-minute touchdown from Jaden Daniels to Zach Ertz that even made it a single possession game. I would keep an eye on Saquon Barkley, over 94.5 rushing yards. He was the big difference the first time these two teams met in Philadelphia. Joe, Michael Penix Jr. and the Atlanta Falcons, an 8.5-point favorite on Sunday at home, hosting the New York Giants. First NFL career start for Penix Jr. for an Atlanta team still very much in the running for the NFC South. From a narrative perspective, Joe, maybe one of the biggest games of the day. How do you expect the Rook to perform against the G-Men?
I mean, good, but are they 8.5 good, Ben? 8.5 now in terms of this matchup? They got to win it by 10 plus. I mean, maybe if the Giants just completely no-show, and they've been doing that for much of the regular season, but against a rookie quarterback making his first start in a game that they need to win, I'll take the Giants overall plus the points. Atlanta might win, but give me the dog. I do think, though, Ben, under the 43.5, I do feel that Raheem Morris and the offensive staff aren't going to give him the keys to the bus and say throw it 50 times a game. It's more Bijan. It's more Tyler Algier. I think this game trends to the under.
I agree as well, Lacey Guy. When you look at the Giants this year, under in 9 of 14 games, Atlanta under in 6 of its last 8. I don't think we see a ton of offense. No Michael Penix Jr. props out just yet. Those numbers will be interesting to see. Joe, as we shared, the Colts still kind of have some hope of reaching the AFC playoffs, but they need a lot of help. One thing they must do is win out. Indy, a 3.5-point home favorite against the Titans. Total 42.5. Not our prettiest game of the weekend. Anything you like?
Yeah, I mean, if you're Indianapolis and you had Denver on the ropes, you bash this team in a big way. I can only look Indianapolis, double-digit win. If it was me and I had to bet this game, I would probably alt it as high as 6.5, even maybe over a key number of 7, just because they need the game that much. Do lean to the over. Don't like it, though, just because, again, the inconsistency of Tennessee's offense now with Mason Rudolph. But give me Indy in a big way here.
Yeah, the Titans are a 3-11 football team, Joe, who have not covered a single time in any of those 11 losses. The story now for Detroit, the significant injuries to key contributors on both sides of the football. The Lions, though, still a 12-2 football team that if the season ended today would be the 1 seed in the NFC. What resolve will we see out of Dan Campbell and Detroit, Joe, as a 6.5-point road favorite in Chicago against the Bears on Sunday?
Again, another situation. We saw this game play out. It was a 3-point game. It trended to the under on Thanksgiving Day. But if they play like the first half, they had Chicago on the ropes. It was the Jahmyr Gibbs fumble inside the 20 that changed the momentum and allowed Chicago to stay within margin. I watched that game play out on Monday with Caleb Williams, inconsistent, couldn't find his reads, running for his life from an offensive line perspective. It's Detroit or bust for me. But I will say, even though they're on the road, I lean to the over in terms of the matchup.
Listen, it's outdoors. It's Chicago. We understand what the elements could be on a Sunday in late December. But, Joe, Dan Campbell has said it all week. Sometimes you've been eating too much filet. You got to remember what the other stuff tastes like. Detroit needs to show its resolve that it still is a Super Bowl contender. I believe they do. I like the Lions in a big way. If you wanted to add them to a 6-point teaser, down to a pick, I think Detroit wins comfortably in Chicago. Amon-Ra St. Brown, anytime touchdown, by the way, at -105. Right now, Joe, entering Week 16, the LA Rams are in the top spot, in pole position, and the minus money favorites at minus 185 to win the NFC West. They're a full field goal favorite on the road in MetLife against the New York Jets and Aaron Rodgers. Total 46.5. What do you like?
I can't bet the Jets. I could take the over, though, Ben. To me, that's a doable number. I love the Rams. The Rams were my pick to win the West. I don't think it stops now. 46.5. Obviously, with Rodgers putting up some numbers, I think they continue to chuck. And Stafford, you want to push him into a duel, even though the weather will be cold. I think they'll take that any day of the week. So I like the Rams, but best play, even in a cold weather environment, is the over.
Listen, the Jets offense has had some life the last few weeks. We know about the vintage Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams game. I don't care, man. The Rams have won 7 of their last 9. The Rams are the by far better football team in this matchup. The Jets this year as an underdog, 1-3 against the spread, 0 outright victories. I could see, Joe, an over coming in to play at 46.5, but I do think the Rams win and even cover as a 3-point favorite. I wouldn't mind laying 3 at worst a push. Another flat 3 for a big game in Seattle. The Seahawks welcome in the Minnesota Vikings, a total at 42.5. Seattle is the home dog. Geno Smith back at practice in full this week. He expects to play on Sunday. Quickly here, Lisi, right before the break, what do you like in this matchup?
I like Seattle. I think the line is a little bit fishy against Minnesota. Give me the 3.5. Give me the money line. Lean to the under.
Minnesota, a 12-2 football team that is 9-2-1 against the spread in those 12 wins. Under in 9 of 12. I lean under 42 and a hook. We'll wrap up the weekend in the NFL, and then it's college football playoff time. Next.
We're not saying every SportsGrid listener is a legend, but you might start thinking about who's going to play you in the movie. Just saying. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
The man accused of killing United Healthcare CEO was whisked back to New York by plane and helicopter Thursday to face new federal charges of stalking and murder, which could bring the death penalty if he's convicted.
With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg.
This update brought to you by Verizon. Luigi Mangione was held without bail following a Manhattan federal court appearance, capping a whirlwind day that began in Pennsylvania, where he was arrested last week in the December 4th attack on Brian Thompson. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement deported more than 270,000 people to 192 countries over a recent 12-month period. That's the highest annual tally in a decade, according to a report released Thursday. ICE, the main government agency responsible for removing people in the country illegally, had 271,484 deportations in its fiscal year ending September 30th, nearly double from the 142,580 in the same period a year earlier.
I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
This year, American farmers will harvest 2.8 billion bushels of wheat and 15.1 billion bushels of corn. And to this day, American road workers have built 4.2 million miles of roads and counting. We're proud that John Deere machines rolling off the line here in the USA play a part in supporting Americans who work the land and build a better tomorrow. Nothing runs like a Deere. Learn more at johndeere.com/manufacturing.
Not to brag, but Progressive's Name Your Price tool is mankind's greatest tool ever. Even better than the wheel. Sure, without the wheel, we wouldn't have modern transportation or funny videos of dogs riding skateboards. But without the Name Your Price tool, we wouldn't have easy access to auto insurance options based on our budget. And, well, cars do need wheels. They also need insurance, and insurance never goes flat. Learn more about the greatest tool ever, the Name Your Price tool, at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Ask any player and they'll tell you any advantage is important. That's where we come in. SportsGrid delivers gaming strategies and analysis 7 days a week.
The winning edge.
It's your advantage to more winning more often. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
In the final few minutes of the Chiefs' victory in Cleveland on Sunday, despite KC up by 2 touchdowns, winning by 2 touchdowns, their largest margin of victory this season in any of their 13 wins, Patrick Mahomes went down with what looked to be a rather severe high ankle sprain. He's going to play on Saturday. The Chiefs' hopes of maintaining the number 1 overall seed so much better, and thus, Joe, Buffalo took kind of a hit because of nothing they did except an outright victory in Detroit against the Lions. Buffalo has won 8 of their last 9. They've been an absolute offensive wagon, scoring 30-plus in 8 consecutive games. They're a 14.5-point home favorite on Sunday afternoon, hosting New England, total 46.5. Joe, there's no doubt the Bills win this game. At least that's what the odds makers say. Can Buffalo win it by more than 2 touchdowns?
Oh, well, they certainly can. Will they? I'm going to take the points with New England. Again, it's an AFC East divisional game, and, they're still in a rebuild, New England. You want to obviously play your best against the best team in the division and one of the best in the AFC. So, again, I think you'll get New England's best shot. Does that mean they'll win the game outright? Most likely not, but 2 touchdowns and a half, even though Buffalo's been a dominant home team, I'll take that. I don't think they, put it this way, I'd be shocked if they lay an egg like San Francisco did in the snow 4 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. I don't think it looks 35-10. I think it's more competitive, maybe 28-17, lower scoring game, and somehow, some way, New England creeps in and backdoors the number.
Yeah, I think we get some points, oddly enough. The Patriots have gone over in 5 of their last 7, the Bills in 7 of these 9 games, in which they have won 8. I don't see Buffalo slowing down. 46.5 is that total. The Miami Dolphins and the San Francisco 49ers, a critical game for both, Joe. If anybody, any of these 2 teams has any chance of making the postseason, the Fins a very slight -112 money line favorite. The 49ers at -106. It's a virtual pick'em, Lacey guy, who gets it done on Sunday.
San Francisco, again, I mean, you're talking about 2 garbage teams. One's a little bit more physical than the other. I'll take San Francisco and Shanahan over McDaniel and Tua and that group any day because San Fran runs the football. At the end of the day, that is still in their MO to run the football, and that's a weakness of Miami right now.
We'll see, though. Patrick Taylor, now that lead back. Isaac Guerrero not going to play. The 49ers have been booked as an underdog just twice since the start of last year. They are 0-2 and by a really big margin. Miami is lucky that although a Niners team had Super Bowl expectations entering the year, they have failed miserably on those, mainly because of injuries. So the Niners are not the favorites, and the Niners are not a winning football team with a winning record at this moment. It gives the Dolphins a chance. They're 22-9 straight up as a favorite under Mike McDaniel, just 4-16 straight up as the underdog. Joe, the Raiders are laying a number somehow, some way at home on Sunday against the Jags. Total 40.5. This is a matchup between a 3-11 Jacksonville team and a 2-12 Las Vegas team. I'll just say this. The Jags look like they still want to win football games or at least compete. I'll take the Jags outright.
Yeah, I'm not betting this game in any capacity, so right. I would be with you just because Mac Jones and that offense put up at least 25 points. We saw Brian Thomas break out with a huge performance against the Jets and Sauce Gardner. So you got to believe that still will carry. I watched Des Ridder. I watched that team lifeless for much of the game, and they still were within striking distance. That was more about Atlanta than it was Las Vegas. So give me the Jags. Lean to the under, though, Ben. I don't know. You tell me. I don't have any confidence in Las Vegas putting up any numbers consistently.
No, I agree as well, Joe. Sunday Night Football, the Bucs are at the Star in Dallas. Tampa in that number 1 spot within the NFC South, but needs to keep winning games, at least 2 of their final 3 at bare minimum to make sure Atlanta does not catch them. They might actually have to win out if Atlanta were to win out. But regardless, the Bucs need to win games. 3.5-point favorite against the Cowboys in Dallas. Total 48.5 on Sunday night. It's our final game of the weekend, Joe, in the NFL. What do you like?
I can only lean Baker right now. Baker's more consistent. That team is running the football with Bucky Irvin and Rashad White. And again, their defense is slowly coming around. They're not dominant, but at times they could take games over. 48.5, though, seems high, Ben. I would lean to the under just because I don't know and I know Cooper Rush has been putting up numbers statistically, but I don't trust it in any capacity. It's Tampa Bay and the under for me.
I go Tampa Bay alt spread -6.5 to win by a touchdown at +132. I think the Buccaneers absolutely hammer Dallas on Sunday. The Cowboys at home, 1-6, both straight up and against the spread, with the only win and cover against the Giants on Thanksgiving. I believe in the Bucs. I believe in Mike Evans over 78.5 receiving yards as well. All right, Lisa Guy, enough of that, huh? What a football weekend we have in store. It starts tonight. It is starting right now. Ohio, by the way, up 14-7 against Jacksonville State in the closing minute of the opening quarter. The Gamecocks with a big 75-yard touchdown toss to get on the scoreboard and make this a touchdown game. But Lisa Guy, as we have shared, tonight is historic. It's the first ever game in the first ever 12-team college football playoff. In the first time a CFP game will be played on a college campus. It's the 7-seed Notre Dame. It's the 10-seed Indiana in the in-state showdown under the watchful gaze of touchdown Jesus in snowy South Bend. It is now just a 6.5-point number in favor of the Irish, working its way below a touchdown. Total, Joe, stands at 51 and a hook, dropping now actually to 50.5, perhaps because of that expected wintry weather. What is your play tonight between the Irish and IU?
I like IU. I like Indiana. And the reason why I say that is as long as it's around a touchdown, I'll take the road dog. Again, I know they haven't stepped up against the better teams on their schedule or the one team on their schedule in terms of Ohio State. They didn't cover against Michigan, a more physical defensive front, but I think they can run the football. They have a veteran quarterback and plus 14 in turnover margin travels. They might not win it, but give me Indiana plus the points and under.
These two teams are combined a plus 49 in turnover margin. Both ball hawks, both will take the ball away if presented the opportunity. More from South Bend in our Saturday triple header in the college football playoff. That is next to round out the show on FFC.
Luck is winning the lottery. Strategy is settling your divorce before cashing in the ticket. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. SportsGrid TV and radio networks are the premier streaming video and audio channel dedicated to serving the sports wagering audience. Found on major smart TV platforms and streaming on SportsGrid Radio and Sirius XM Channel 159. SportsGrid's real-time data, expert commentary, and entertaining analysis transform viewers into informed sports enthusiasts. Our weekday radio lineup begins with the early line at 8 a.m. Eastern with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Donnie joins Kevin Walsh on Money Line at 11 a.m. Eastern, followed by Football Full Circle at noon Eastern. Kaplan and crew join the party at 1 p.m. Eastern, and Pharrell Coast to Coast keeps things rolling from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Get in the mix with Kevin Walsh and Game Time Decisions at 6 p.m. Eastern. Evenings simmer with Carver and Lisi, then boils over with Gabe Moritzi on Sports Rage Late Night at 10 p.m. Eastern. To find out where to find SportsGrid that's best for you, go to sportsgrid.com. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're going to love it, and you're going to love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. That's 800-797-1292.
Think of us as your cool roommate that has this innate gift of somehow always picking winners and never bugs you about doing the dishes or paying rent. Sports gaming strategies and information 24/7. Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle. Tonight is the night of the first ever game in the 12-team era of the college football playoff. Again, Notre Dame now less than a touchdown favorite at home. The Irish laying 6.5 points. Total stands at 50.5. and a hook. Joe, I bet Indiana when this line opened up at 7.5, expecting it to drop under a touchdown. But I thought that would have happened a few days ago, not on game day Friday. I do think Indiana can keep this game within striking distance because not their offense, but they're really good defense against a Notre Dame offense that we have not seen in 2 decades. The Irish are the 3rd best scoring offense in the country, averaging nearly 40 points per game. The last time that Notre Dame had a top 5 scoring offense, the stats don't even go back that far. It has not happened in the last 2 decades, at least as of last check in the stats era of 2003 and beyond. That's how IU stays in the game. But Joe, if the Hoosiers pull off this upset outright, it's because of the offense. That against Ohio State was putrid. 156 total yards. Curtis Rourke was 8 of 18 for 68 yards. They need to be better against a Notre Dame defense that is also pretty darn good. The Irish against non-MAC foes this year, 10 games, 9-0-1 against the spread, averaging basically 44 points per game, over in 7 of those 10. All right, Lisi Guy, let's get to our triple header of college football playoff action on a Saturday. It starts at noon Eastern time. Penn State, 8.5-point home favorite in a Valley that is happy against SMU. It's the 6th seed, the Nittany Lions, the 11th seed, the Mustangs, the runner-ups, both of the Big Ten and the ACC, respectively. 53.5, Joe, is that total. What's your play for State College, Pennsylvania to start our Saturday?
I'm taking the points with SMU and Kevin Jennings. I honestly believe they're live in this matchup. Not so much for their offense, but I do believe in their defense. I understand they gave up 34 in the ACC championship game to Cape Klubnik, but they're still very rock solid against the run. They held Clemson to 62 yards on the ground. That is the MO of Penn State. When they have success and they dominate, they're running the football consistently. They try to do that bully ball against Oregon. They rushed for almost 300 yards and still lost it by 8 points. This is a different animal. Again, Penn State might win, but I'll take the points with SMU. I think all the pressure falls on Drew Aller and James Franklin. They're at home. Give me the better defense and the more mobile quarterback. I'll take my chances with SMU.
SMU is great up front. They're the 4th best rushing defense in the country, allowing fewer than 94 yards per game. Basically, you look at Penn State, Tennessee, and Ohio State. They're the 3 FBS defenses that rank top 20 across the entire spectrum. So Penn State is really sound defensively as well. Joe, a lot of people expecting points in this game. SMU can score it. SMU's defense against the best competition this year has allowed it. Penn State's offense on the uptick in its final 5 Big Ten games, averaging more than 38 points per game. In fact, make it 38.2 in their first 5 Big Ten games. They were averaging just 24.4. Penn State has gone over in its last 4 games, including that Big Ten title in a shootout against Oregon. My best bet, Nick Singleton, over 34.5 receiving yards. I think it's a big game for Drew Aller. He needs to be good, Joe. He needs to be good if Penn State is going to win and do so comfortably in State College. Our next game, our second of the triple header in Austin. It's the 5 seed Texas in the bid-stealing champs out of the ACC. That would be the 12 seed in Clemson. Joe, this is our largest number in terms of a spread in the opening round. 12.5 points in favor of the Longhorns. 50.5 is that total. What do you like in Austin?
I'll lay the points reluctantly with Texas, but I love the over, Ben. 51.5 to me is too light. I think Texas can get into the high 40s. I think this game could be a shootout. I really do. I think this game could light it up in terms of the scoreboard. I think Texas has a significant speed advantage. I know their secondary's elite, but I still think Cade Klubnik can make some plays. Not enough to potentially cover the line, but I do feel we sailed through the total. So Texas and the over for me.
Contravion Wisner, the running back for Texas, over 88.5 rushing yards. Quickly, Joe, Ohio State, Tennessee, 8-9 matchup. Buckeyes laying 7.5. The total, 46 and a hook. What's the play?
Vols outright. Don't need the points. Vols outright.
Joe Lisi, he said it. Dylan Sampson might be a reason why, minus 145 to hit pay dirt. Everybody have a wonderful football weekend. We'll talk to you next week on Football Full Circle.
Now you've done it.
You found the advantage for gaming, odds, and more. But we call it the winning edge for short. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.